Hey gang, hope you've had a fantastic week. Looks like summertime has finally arrived in Victoria, British Columbia. It got so nice that the code lab here yesterday got to the point where we had to open up the doors and the windows. Got a little roasting. Hey, it's Brandon Devanich from i3D Themes with this week's interactive number 86, where we share what we're passionate about and what we've been working on in the design and code labs. So, in the code lab this week, fantastic work on the Oxygen WordPress theme. Colin has been working diligently and very productive this week at finishing up the Oxygen WordPress theme. Now he's going to be using what's called the Gantry framework. And the Gantry framework uses not quite widgets, but something called particles. It's very much like a widget, but it's a type of mechanism within the Gantry framework that operates like a WordPress widget, but a different, more simplified way of working within the Gantry framework. Anyways, Colin's been working on developing and configuring the particles so that the WordPress theme is easy for you, the end user, to configure. And then coming up probably next week, he and I will be working together to figure out how to package it up and put it into an online demo, just like the rest of our WordPress themes. In the code lab this week, we have been focusing on the lazy load mechanism for the Pegasaas Accelerator WordPress plugin. Now, one of the things about lazy loading is that it can really speed up your website if it's done properly. If none of the images that are above the, I should say, if the images that are above the folder aren't lazy loaded and everything is below is lazy loaded, your web page can load very fast, because all these resources that could be maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 megabytes in size below the page haven't yet loaded. This is one of the things John Mueller of Google has been mentioning recently about the speed signal that they're going to be using as a part of the ranking algorithm and the mobile first index coming into play in July is going to be based off of aggregate data from the user data that they glean from the Chrome web browser. Now, the Chrome web browser has different data points within it as far as how quickly a page loads the HTML, renders the document object, and then loads all the content. Now, if your images don't need to be loaded because they're lazy loaded, and what lazy loaded means is that they aren't loaded until you start scrolling into view, then it means that your web page will load much faster. And so this is, of course, one of the many different aspects that Pegasaas uses to make sure your web pages load as fast as possible. Image optimization is also one of them. Lazy loading, deferral of render blocking resources, all these different mechanisms can come into play to make your web page load as fast as possible. And as we move closer to July, this is going to become even more pressing as we find that Google folds that signal into their ranking algorithm. And so, as I mentioned, Adam this week has been here helping me out on making the lazy loading features even more robust, and we're going to be folding in those features into the Pegasaas plugin next week. Early next week, I will be releasing what's called version 1.6 of Pegasaas plugin, which focuses in on the data delivery mechanism of all the critical path CSS, the Google page speed scores, all the work, the heavy lifting that our API does, and how it's delivered to the plugin that is installed on your WordPress site. What we were finding is, more and more, those people that want to speed up their websites, they want to speed them up because their websites are slow, as in they take forever to load because they're on slow web hosting. Now, the first thing that we say when you want to speed up your website is make sure you have fast web hosting. I mean, you can only speed up a two-stroke engine so much. If you want to have a Lamborghini, you got to have a fast engine in it, right? Same sort of thing with web hosting. You don't want to be on a shared hosting platform that has thousands of websites all running database-intensive applications such as WordPress. You want to be on a system that delivers the web pages fast, within a couple seconds. You don't want to be waiting 6, 10, 15 seconds for your page to be delivered. And so what we're finding is that many people that have these slow servers realize, oh, I have to speed up my website, but I don't want to take that step to go and speed up the hosting. We just want to make it fast, magically. Well, that's what Pegasus is for, and Pegasus can speed up the web hosting. But what has happened is that Pegasus, being a super fast API, has been delivering the information back to the requesting server too fast and overloading the web servers. So you got your slow web server, and Pegasus says, sure, we can do all that for you really, really speedy like. And here you go, here's all that information. Keep. And the server's going, no, too much. So we had to build a mechanism to drip feed those web servers that are slower than they really should be, so that we can still optimize them. It's just going to take a little bit longer for those slower websites to optimize, to get all the critical path CSS, to find out how your pages are scoring, but that's okay. Tortoise and hare, often the tortoise will win the race, but sometimes slower is a little bit better, especially if you have a really slow web server. So that's what we've been working on for version 1.6. We're going to be, like I said, deploying that out early next week, and we're going to be folding in the updates that Adam has been working with me on this week. We've also been vetting a couple different theme frameworks and different hosting platforms this week. Kinsta and SiteGround as hosting platforms. Themify was one of the theme frameworks that we've been working with, and just going through and finding why did you guys do it that way? Okay, let's figure out a way to make things work and be optimized properly. And so we're going to be folding in those sort of conditional fixes into the, we're hoping 1.6, but it might be 1.6.1. Coming in probably about midweek next week. Anyways, I hope you've had a fantastic week. We sure have here in Victoria, BC, where the sun has been shining so bright this week, so hot. We've had to open up our windows and our doors, which is unusual for April, and it might mean that we might get out for a little bit of golf starting next week. Actually, I think Colin snuck out on Tuesday for a little bit. Little jealous here, but I had just too much work to do. Anyways, I think I'll see if I can join him next week. Hope you have great plans for the weekend ahead. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you again next week. All right, bye-bye.